want to do just a little bit of work here. One of the things we left off last week, I'm kind of in a hurry, was I had you take a natural sea sponge, and you can buy these at any art store, and I just broke it in half so I get some irregular edges. And I took a little paint over here, whatever color was after, let's just say it's yellow, a little yellow-green, and you can just tap it. And see, that's how I leaf this tree here. And you can just tap on it. It creates beautiful little textures. It works great for flowers as well. So say, for instance, you want to put a few flowers in here. Because of the irregular edges here, it makes beautiful leaf pattern. It's one of the more fun things you'll do. In fact, I'll show you on this one, this little study painting I did before the show a couple weeks ago. That's how I did this tree as well. See, I just took this and I just did a little tapping just to kind of give it a little bit of, and that's how I put some of these flowers in there with. All the techniques I used here are the same techniques I used here. Kind of get a feel for the watercolor. Now remember, watercolor is fluid. It moves. It's not detailed. Now you can do that if you want to be a detailed painter. You can. You can get almost photographic, approaches to watercolor if you want to. I'm just showing you basic concepts and techniques, so then you can decide where you want to go with it. Now, the other thing after learning how to leaf is take your script brush. I want to put a few more quick things in here. I'm going to take a little bit of hooker's green, a little burnt umber. I want to put some darker weeds in here. So I started this to seat this tree. So pull these up so that they will show up nicely against the background. And down here in front, coming up against the water, back to the contrast rule. And in a few minutes, we're going to start a brand new painting that will have all kinds of cool things going on. See how cool that works? Get some nice little weeds coming up against that background. And if you want to, a couple of tall ones up here and then reflect them in the water. But wiggling your brush makes the water look a little wetter. I put one or two in the corner over here just as a practical matter. But really, folks, I don't want to spend tons of time on this. Just wanted to get enough going here. Let's put us another sapling. We have a pocket of dead space over here. I don't want to get too carried away. But let's put a little sapling right here to kind of fill up that space. Typical script brush work. Using your number 4 sable script brush, come to a nice point, makes a beautiful little tree or twiggy branches. Then if you wanted to put some, like I said, some flowers very quickly, you could take and just be sure when you do flowers, if you use a clean one, you probably want to rinse this out, one of your clean buckets of water there. So let's say you want to tap in a few, let's show some red ones. You want to put the paint on a little more opaque. Normally we don't make paint too opaque with this, but in this case, you can. A little red or a little orange mixed together, whatever you want. I'm going to test it first on a little scrap here. A little piece of scrap. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to tap like this. Gently. Yes, it's going to make beautiful little flowers. I'm just kind of letting the weight of the sponge do the work. I'm just guiding it with my hand. See how perfect the little flowers are, man? Those are terrific. Put a little around the base of this tree to kind of add a little more interest to it. And of course, you can do tons of things, folks. You can put the little birds flying. You can put an old broken fence. You can put a little bit of build back there. But let's put a couple of birds. And there you have your little study painting. And we've learned a lot of things on this. So instead of just kind of beating this one to death, I'm going to use my own advice and not fiddle, play, or putter. We're going to move on to a brand new, beautiful piece. I can't wait to start. So I'm going to show you how we're going to get it going here. Hopefully, by now you've had a chance to get familiar with all the tools, the techniques, the papers, and things that we've talked about in the last couple of sessions. Now I'm going to go to this reference material now. I'm going to lay this here, and I'm going to show this to you guys because I want you to understand that sometimes you do things to create effects because it looks better for a watercolor than it does for an oil. Well, in this case, this is an acrylic painting I did some time ago, and I've always wanted to do it in watercolor. See, it's a a duck flying in here. You see, that's a perfect watercolor sky. A little marshland. This beautiful dead stump here. Distant hills. This is going to be a fun painting to do. The dark gray sky. A lot of bleeding going to go on here. We can adapt it and do other things. There's another version of a similar situation where you got more of a marshy setting, a little misty cabin sitting back there in the swamp. We're going to probably use a combination of these two things to get some effects here. Now, I've chosen in this particular painting to use a watercolor board as opposed to a paper that is attached to a board. So what I'm going to do now, you don't necessarily need the board for this. I'm going to set this aside. And I'm going to get my watercolor board here. I'm going to have me a scrap of paper handy for a dabble board. And now what I want to do is be able to focus on the concept that I want to show you here. And number one, a simple little sketch. Now remember what I mentioned to you about the pencil you want to use when you're sketching? That's what I did with mine here. Always use a very hard lead pencil because you don't want the lines to show up too much. So when I look at my reference material here, I'm going to have some very distant hills. And only you can see them, or I can see them. I don't know, you might be able to see this a little bit. But I know where I'm headed with this. And I've got this water here. Now that you've had a chance to practice this kind of stuff on that little study painting. And then I'm going to have my stump here, but I'm not going to sketch it in necessarily. I might have the duck or maybe a couple of ducks. You don't have to sketch in where the clouds go. Now, folks, there are many, many applications that I'm never going to be able to pull into all these lessons. Sometimes you can use like a rubber cement substance to put on there and let it dry. And then when you wash over, you can peel it off. It'll leave a white space so you don't have to contend with color. There's so many little that we can talk about in the next few sessions. But for now, I'm going to set this aside. And I'm going to go over here now to my palette. I'm going to show you my little study painting. I think I showed you this on the first lesson. I'm going to do a couple of quick things. This was my practice piece for that particular painting, so to speak. I like this color. It's a simple little thing. See if you put a little matte on it. See how it breaks it down the peripheral vision. You can see it better. So there's my soft horizon, nice little trees, a little swampy area. You know, you can do a lot of different things with these. So I'm not going to stick to it just exactly as I see it, but I'm going to keep it pretty close. Now let me pull back here if I can get them to look at this. I want to show you this painting in the background here right quick. This is a painting I did many years ago, actually. I think some of you have seen this in the background on the show or somewhere else. This is a watercolor. This is all done in a Prussian blue, which is a color that many of you like to work with. It's got that sort of a green tint. This is Prussian blue with a little burnt umber, and these are just washes to build out the layers to create this sort of hazy atmosphere. The white area that you see here is nothing more than the white paper coming through, where I lifted it off with a paper towel so that the color was gone. I used some different techniques with my credit card to scrape off the roofs so I get those square edges. I left where the clock is white. That's just white paper showing through. This is just white paper showing through. Then I washed a little yellow and gold on it so that it would look colored. The stained glass windows were just white paper. And I just dabbed in some color to suggest that. So, folks, this is what we call a pure watercolor. A pure watercolor is where you allow the white paper to be your white parts of the painting, not by adding opaque white or anything like that, which you can do. There's another type of a watercolor called gouache, Gouache, I think is how it's spelled. I think it's a French watercolor. It's an opaque watercolor. A lot of commercial artists use it. Sometimes I'll use a little of it, and I'll show you when it's possible in a painting like this one. All right, here we go. Let's get ready. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fascinating. It's going to be exciting. Now, I'm going to set my reference material over here where I can see it. I'm going to go to my large paintbrush, which is I think it's 2 inches, or you can use any size you want to, of course, but I think the bigger the better. Now, I'm only going to paint the sky first. Now, that may be all we'll get done to the sky from the background today. I've got my paints wet over here. I've squirted a little water, so it could be getting a little soupy. I'm going to put this sponge over here in the water. Now, I'm going to simply wet the area. Once again, Now this will have multiple layers, so I want you to watch how this works. Work this across evenly. Now I've got a low horizon line with a little bit of a yellow-orange tint to it. Almost a little bit of a sunset effect. And see, I'm not going to put that much color in there, so you'll notice what I'm doing. I'm rinse this out. I'll put just a little swish of this across the horizon. Maybe just a touch more yellow. Let that bleed. And while that's still wet, I'm going to go to some little blue over here, a little purple. Now you're going to say, oh, blue and yellow will turn green. Yeah, it probably will. That's okay. Let it turn green. Switch this across. Now I'm going to start building my little cloud formations. Just a couple along there. You don't want that to be a little darker. And of course I like the purple. I'll put a little cobalt blue in there. Maybe a little bit of burnt sienna. Yeah, I think that's what I want. See, I'm going to change the color scheme just slightly. Like little swishes, little taps, whatever you have to do to kind of get some movement. Then let it bleed. Try my best, folks, to kind of keep this where you can see it. But the problem with art is you have to paint where it feels good and what's comfortable. So see, I'm kind of helping these clouds along a little. Just a bit of the sun. See, this board bleeds a little bit differently than some boards. It's a little bit smoother, a little cleaner. I'm trying to see what this is going to do here. I know you guys can't see it, but I have no choice. I got to get it to work. Go. Now I like the way that's shaping up there. Clean up my corners a little bit. Now, if you want your corners darker, this would be the time to do it. You can do it later as well when it's dry, but it's best to go ahead now and do it as dark as you can get it. A little umber and blue, just a little darker up here in the corner. Let it fade down. There you go. So you're happy with it. You have to go every direction until you get it like you want it. Man, that's kind of cool look. It's kind of like the wind's blowing, whispering along there. Now, we'll let that set. I think I'm going to probably put some more color in it later, but while that's wet back here in the horizon, we've got to put just a little bit of color because it's just a very distant hill. So take your little bit of purple over here on your palette. Then keep scooting out of the way. Don't get it too purple, but kind of dirty out with a little bit of that gray. Put a little bit of this across the horizon. So this also will act as my distant hills. Let it bleed. See how I'm letting it bleed? You can pull it up to shape it a little bit more. Almost like it's creating some soft bushes as well as some little hills. Oh yeah. See how cool that's looking right there? Yeah. And when you're kind of happy with the way it's set, roll this will dry a little wider than what you normally have. So you're well, not exactly copy this, but you're in combination of those two color schemes. There's more gray, there's more on the purple side, and I'm using more of these color schemes. So once that's set, say we're not going to come back and do a little work on it. By the way, the very top of this, if it's puddling and it's bugs you, sometimes you got to go across like this and suck that moisture off. And the reason for that is because if water gets in underneath it and it gets in between the fibers where the binders are that hold the paper to the cardboard, sometimes it can separate. You'll be real careful with that. That would be the advantage, frankly, of maybe taking this down so we couldn't get water underneath it. So you might consider that. Now, while that's drying, we're when it dries, we'll pull off any of these debris things. I don't know what those are. It just happens in painting. For now, we're going to let it sit there. We may darken the sky. We may do some other things, play. But let's take a look in here. Now then, on the base down here, about midway, we're going to have this sort of this meadow back here of color. I'm going to switch to my number 2 sort of sable brush here. And these are great watercolor brushes. I'm going to wet this area also very quickly here. About a couple inches down. I'm going to go to yellow ochre. Ochre is a marvelous color. A lot of artists use it for tinting their backgrounds like this to create a distant earthy meadow effect. And remember, everything's done in stages, so don't get in a hurry. Although it sounds like we're in a hurry, they're not. But you just take your time to do it right. Now, while that's still wet, I can see some fun things happening. Let's take some brown, maybe a little purple. Let's go ahead and make some bushes. So you never know. You just got to have to catch it as it's going. And I'm going to try to get putting many colors together here. You can see I'm probably confusing some of you. But I'm going to the greens and the browns. I like this right here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to phase this up right in this section. You can see how that's going up. You tap it, kind of help it along. Start different directions to get your little bushes. And you let them bleed as far as you want them to go. Then you put the brakes on by tipping it back up. So I'm doing this. They're just like little bushes. This looks fun. So you might want to blend them together so they're not so single. But here again, folks, these are just underpainting. So, you're just doing this in a little. See, by doing that, they're blending together a little bit. In oil paint or acrylic paint, you'd be blending together with a brush, but here you have to do it as it's bleeding. So it's the bleeding technique to get your blending. Okay, let those sit there for a second. Looks good. All right, and while that's still kind of taken care of, now that'll be our little distant area back there. Now our meadow, our water is actually going to be almost this whole foreground here. Because I like that marshy effect that we're going to get here with a large stump right here and probably a few more trees in there. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of see how I want to end it maybe a little bit more interestingly. Making just a slight sketch. Most watercolors, like I said, leave their sketch lines in there. I'll leave it just a bit like that. Alright, now then, let's take your brush, rinse it out. Now remember, I've got 3 canisters of water, one that's really dirty, one that's fairly dirty, one that's fairly clean. In this case, I want some clean water. I want to wet this area where the water's going to go. And you can either use the Hake brush again, or you can use this one. This one will probably be fine. Just get a nice even distribution of water on here. And just pick up a little bit of your same colors you have in your sky, with the yellow and a little bit of orange. Just be careful not to go overboard with it, because that happens. And always remember that a watercolor dries lighter. You can see how the sky is lightening, although we want that to some degree. If it's too light, so you can come back over and darken it when it dries by just putting clean water on it, and you'll be all set. Okay, so there's that color. And you go back down here and hit a little bit of blue. Color there. You just got to do this carefully. Bring this up. I got a little bit of red in there accidentally. It's a little darker. You just kind of do the same thing that you do with your sky. Just kind of let it bleed up there a little bit. Just going to have to go this direction. There we go. Now, we'll let that sit for a second. We're going to soften this spot in the middle just a little bit by just dragging my brush across it. Don't want that line to be so dominant. Okay, that's good enough for that. Now, while this is still slightly wet, let's put a little bit of this color here in the water where the bushes are. Now, we got them up here, but now down in here, we want to get a little bit too. And this time I'm going to make it just a tad darker. You'll see why here in a little bit. And just kind of help it along. So lift it up there and kind of let it drag down a little bit. It's fascinating to watch this stuff develop. See how it's bleeding? Okay. That's a great little, I love that little bush right there. Only an artist can get excited about something like this. Now I'm going to darken this really right along the edge. Go to more purple and brown. And this is where we'll do a little scraping to create the rocky edge. See how I'm just tapping this along here? This is good. Real good. You're going to like this. It's going to be fun. And hopefully, if all goes well, and like I said, watercolor is kind of iffy, I'm going to go ahead and pull up this just to kind of create a little bit of a grassy effect and not necessarily mean anything yet, just to soften that edge a little. Pull up along there a little. Okay, now while this is still wet, take your penknife, it's got the sharp blade, and scrape along this edge here. And let's see if we can get some, yeah, it's going to scrape just fine. This is where you want to go along here and form your shoreline. See that spot right there? Make a rock out of that. This will be your shoreline. So all you're doing, see how cool that does? You just take this, you scrape it, form your little edge, scratch it a little bit to give it a little bit of ripple, a little bit of movement, a little more texture. I just think that's one of the coolest things to be able to do that. And see, you're not painting it on there, you're scraping that highlight on there. Isn't that cool? So there's your little shoreline for that. You can also take your brush and you can scrape up like this, like I said, if you want to, and you can scrape in some little scratchy lines, like little weeds. You don't have to, but that's a great technique for those who like that kind of thing, and I think you'll enjoy that. Now, while that's setting up, we need to be thinking about some of the other components. That's probably not dry enough yet for what we're getting ready to do. One other thing I'm going to try to do here is figure out where our tree is going to go. So let's take our pencil now. We're going to have our large pine tree, or dead tree, not pine tree, but dead tree right here. And it will go right there. Alright, so let's go ahead and kind of block that in. Take one of your chisel edge brushes, this is the number 4. Take a little bit of brown, a little bit of blue, a little bit of purple, just all your earthy tones. Have your scraper knife handy, and just go ahead and get this in here. And this is kind of where I'm going to leave you. You guys can be working on this, but just get this big old giant stuffing. I mean, this is a big one. Get it in like that. Just block it in. Kind of chunky. the edge of the water. Then take your knife, as we did in our practice piece, and scrape the edge to get your bark. Now I'm going to do a lot more to this next week when we start doing some other things, but this is what I wanted to have you practice. You had a chance to do a little bit on that other one. This works a little better on this board because it's a little tougher. It takes the scraping and you can create better texture. See how cool that works? We're going to make this look like a hollow log. You just take your knife and just kind of scrape it like this and leave little pockets. And it's lifting up the paper because it's wet and it's actually carrying it is what it's doing. And that's normal. I know a lot of you think, oh man, I'm tearing my paper. Look, that's what you're supposed to do. And as usual, we are about to run out of time. This is where I'm going to give you your little homework assignment. Try to get, if you're working with this stuff, a background that's brought in like kind of like I've done here, a soft, washy sky. Try to get you a little meadow back in there, a little marshy area, blocking your trunk. And then next time when we meet, we're going to have a great time trying to put together this wonderful painting. We're about to run out of time. I got to keep my eye on this. We're going to reflect this. I want to thank you for joining us today. I hope you're enjoying watercolor. This is so fun to me. I'm having so much fun teaching it. So thank you for joining me on another session of Paint This with Jerry Arnell. We'll continue with these beautiful watercolor studies in the next two sessions. So God bless you. Stay inspired and keep painting. I promise you again real soon right here.
Episodes of Paint This with Jerry Arnell are available at yarnellschool.com. For more information about Paint This with Jerry Arnell, visit them online at yarnellschool.com. You can also email Jerry or call him toll free at 877-681